They take a meticulous approach unearths a shocking and familiar name.
You're never going to believe who it is.
Okay, Mom, I'll see you tomorrow. I love you. Those were her last words to me.
We were so young and you didn't think of those bad things happening.
Imagine yourself, what if that was my kid? You don't want to stop until you find them.
When she steps out of the car here, who steps out with her? People want answers, and we do too, but it's like some of those things are going to be hard to find.
Who can we look at and say, evidence puts them here and here, point A and point B?
Your point A was all of Myrtle Beach.
Did we miss something?
My mom was destined to find my sister from day one.
Why did I have to wait 13 years for this to be solved?
She went from being desperate to determined. There's nothing like a mother who's determined. There's no stopping her.
It's been almost a decade since Brittanee Drexel vanished while on spring break in Myrtle Beach. I did call the FBI today and they said they still have no updates for us.
All-American girl, very pretty, 17, nothing but a bright future ahead of her. Goes down to Myrtle Beach to have fun with friends, and every parent's worst nightmare, she disappears.
We still don't know where she is or what happened to her.
You've got a young girl in a safe place, caught on camera, and then minutes later, just to disappear. The suddenness is stunning.
No arrests have been made and no one has been charged.
Throughout all these years, I never gave up trying to look for Brittanee. This was a really important birthday. I mean, her 21st birthday. This is when they had the press conference and telling us that she was deceased. A lot of times it felt like I was never going to find her. But I knew that I had to keep her name and face out there.
In the years that Brittanee has been missing, the main persons of interest named by authorities have all turned out to be dead ends. Timothy Deshaun Taylor, named by a jailhouse informant in 2016, and Ray Moody, a convicted sex offender, investigated in 2011. But now, a new FBI team is brought in.
As far as our involvement for this team that we currently have, started when Dawn Drexel came to our office and asked us if we would become more involved in assisting in this investigation. She's very proactive in seeking answers, and she doesn't accept inactivity. Inactivity would probably be the best way to say it.
I went in to a meeting with them. I said, I'm done with the BS. I'm done with the lies. I said, I want my daughter found.
Between the three of us up here, we're into the double digits on daughters, all of us. And it's something that when you hear the story and you see what happened, you just imagine to yourself, what if that was my kid? You don't want to stop until you find them.
It was most important to us to find Brittanee. And that changes your investigative strategy, because you're not just looking to find the answers to the case, you're trying to find her where she is physically located.
We all reviewed the entirety of the evidence, making sure we were looking at least the most complete picture that was possible.
We said, let's look at this thing scientifically and not focus on any specific individual. Let's see who is at Myrtle Beach between 8:30 and a little bit after 9, the day that Brittanee went missing, and who was at the landing shortly after 10 p.m.
Who can we look at and say, evidence puts them here and here, point A and point B?
Remember, authorities had pieced together the general vicinity of points A and B years before.
Law enforcement, way before we got involved, had collected cell phone information based on Brittanee's cell phone and knew where she was at certain points based on communications going in and out of that cell phone.
All these data points were developed by people who care about Brittanee, and inadvertently, I don't think they realized it at the time, but they were creating evidence, critical pieces to the investigation.
Your point A was all of Myrtle Beach, more or less. And then your point B is somewhere, wait, how many miles away is the Santee River?
It takes about an hour and 20-ish minutes to get there by car. It's a big area.
How do you start narrowing it down?
So we talk about Brittanee getting seen on the 11th Avenue South camera, which is right behind me, walking south across this hotel area right here. And what we were able to determine was approximately how fast she is moving. We came out here, we walked it with stopwatches, we checked it against maps. We're just trying to put those little pieces together to build some type of a profile of her pattern of behavior.
The fact that Brittany's text with her boyfriend ended so abruptly that night provided a critical clue for the FBI.
That tells you that whatever was the norm has now changed.
Investigators had always suspected that Brittany somehow got into a vehicle after she left the Blue Water Resort.
At approximately 8:45 p.m., we have Brittanee on video leaving the Blue Water Resort. Then her phone travels at a speed consistent with walking.
At what point did you get a sense she went from walking to being in a car?
So her last outgoing text message or communication of any kind to anyone was at 8:57:58. And we knew from the geolocation data that she was moving north on Ocean Boulevard. And we knew that if she continues her normal pattern of walking, that we would have seen her back on this camera. But Brittanee never was seen crossing back. Instead, what you see is that only approximately 6 or 7 minutes later, that her phone is pinging in the area blocks and blocks and blocks north, where it would be impossible for someone on foot to get there that fast.
And how do you know which way she's going?
The way the phone data looked to us was that they stayed on this road here.
So that's when, for the FBI team, what had been a routine stream of traffic on the 11th Avenue South footage took on urgent meaning.
We knew that between 8:58 p.m. and 9:03 p.m., a car was going to pass on that 11th Street South camera that had Brittany's phone in it, which most likely had Brittany in it. These guys had the video enhanced.
We studied that video ad nauseum to really make sure we knew every vehicle that went by.
That took months and months and months and months because a bunch of vehicles, grainy video, it's hard to tell the difference between a Ford Explorer, black, brown, Suburban, pickup truck.
At the same time, they're digging through files, databases, trying to determine what vehicles their persons of interest were driving or had access to.
Could we attribute a vehicle associated with any of our persons of interest to a vehicle in that video?
Eventually, there was a point in time where there was one specific vehicle that stood out to us.
It's oddly specific, Eddie Bauer, Ford Explorer.
Even as the team zeroed in on point A on the Myrtle Beach Strip, they also had to narrow down which persons of interest could be placed at the other end of the puzzle, at point B at the Boulevard Landing.
What was obvious to us was like, you don't just pick that location. We were reasonably sure it was somebody that had familiarity with the landing.
That's when the team's meticulous approach points to a familiar name, Raymond Moody.
Raymond Moody was an individual that popped up both at A and both at B during that evening.
He was living at the Sunset Lodge.
And crucially, they discovered documentation that Angel Voss, Ray Moody's girlfriend, could have had access to the type of Ford Explorer they'd identified in that video from 11th Avenue South.
Meanwhile, one more piece of information, also involving Angel, comes to the FBI's attention. According to authorities, Angel once told a friend that she and Ray might have had something to do with Brittanee Drexel's disappearance.
Authorities say that Angel's friend goes to investigators with this information, and they convince her to let them record another conversation with Angel.
She gets a statement from Angel on tape saying, I did it, not Ray, I did it.
Authorities cannot corroborate Angel's claim, and they say that they're skeptical that it's true.
The idea is from all of the agencies, look, Angel didn't do this. She's lying, but Angel was on tape saying she did that.
And given Angel's possible access to that Ford Explorer on Ocean Boulevard, the FBI sees an opportunity.
Ray's the convicted sex offender. We think we got our guy, but if everything's pointing at Angel, that might be a tool we can use. Ultimately, it's decided that, hey, now's the time. Let's take a run at it and see what happens, you know?
I mean, I'll take best my abilities, but I cannot be 100% precise. I can promise you that.
And then we get to the third agent who starts asking the tough questions.
questions.
I said, no, please no.
FBI investigators are sitting down with Ray Moody's longtime girlfriend, Angel Voss, at the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office. It's more than 10 years after local authorities first brought her to the same room to question her about Ray and the night of Brittanee Drexel's disappearance.
I took her upstairs, introduced her to Special Agent Kavanaugh and Special Agent Conley and Intelligence Analyst Caleb Messer. She agreed to go in, sit down, talk with them.
I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning on this thing and just talk to everybody who's been interviewed before.
Anything she says is better than nothing. We'll even take the small victories, because the small victories adds up.
It's a little ways to go. I understand. I mean, I'll tell you best my abilities, but if I cannot be 100% right, I can't promise you that.
So the interview starts out very slowly as they're asking her basic questions in order to warm her up before they start hitting her with the harder questions.
What is the first memory that you have about the first time you heard about the Brittanee Drexel? First time I heard it on TV? Probably heard it at work.
They're trying to determine if she or Ray would have been driving that 1998 Ford Explorer on Ocean Boulevard during the specific time window that they think Brittanee's cell phone passed the camera on 11th Avenue South.
We're pretty sure that's their Explorer, but I need her to say it.
Do you guys ever have a Bravada, an Oldsmobile or anything like that? Like a Cherokee kind of thing? Could be. I was asking, because my car messed up before I got in with my brother was the issue car. Okay. And he had for like a Cherokee, but
She didn't say Explorer. It was hard.
do you remember anything about when he was wrecked or when he borrowed his car? Early 2009, maybe? Yeah, maybe. Have they ever been seen? Just a couple times. Really not too much. And actually, I do think I'll pick him up.
She was trying to minimize as much detail as she possibly could, try and keep things as gray as she possibly can.
Would there be any reason why anyone might have seen that vehicle near the landing the night that Brittany went missing? I have no idea. Or work that night? She worked.
This is an art form. There are 3 agents that are questioning her, and the first 2 handle all of the initial stuff, and then we get to the 3rd agent who starts asking the tough questions.
You know, I'm kind of a direct guy. That's fine. I'm not going to be around for wasting time. Did you have any involvement in picking up Brittanee Drexel? Hell no. Mostly did not. She was never in a vehicle with you? No, never a vehicle with me, no, period.
Mike Conley, he brought up the big guns at this point in time. He let her know that the FBI was in possession of an intercepted communication in which an individual claims responsibility for the death of Brittanee Drexel.
I'm going to read you a couple of quotes. Right, it's pretty much almost verbatim what was said. I want these people. Okay, tell you what. Don't believe me. Because if you're trying to accuse him of anything, then I'm going to believe about it.
Angel said, you're not going to sit here and tell me that Ray was involved in this girl's death. He didn't have anything to do with it.
Because I say he didn't, okay? I say he did not. I'm not, yeah, you are. I don't think he did. And you're not going to involve in it. Hey, do it. Hey, Doug. Hey, Mark, no, I'm not. I said, no. What piece of the no, please, no, I know.
She storms out of there. Obviously, it's a law enforcement facility. You're not allowed to walk around unattended. So I had to run and go get her and accompany her back out to the parking lot. She's cussing them the whole way out. I told her, I said, look, they're not here to talk about Ray. They're here to talk about you. Right now, you're the focus of the Drexel investigation. She started chain smoking a couple cigarettes and she says, no, I need to go back in there and talk to them.
Hank had explained to her that she's the one they had on tape talking about Brittany. It was her own words the agent was going to read.
She tells the FBI she knows what she said. She was just drunk.
But I don't like drinking, and she kept asking me questions about Ray.
Saying that to absorb and deflect, get the attention off of Ray.
I just want everybody to leave me alone. I wouldn't blame on you said anything. That's true. No, I would never hurt anybody. I don't know the truth. I don't know where he was that night.
She maintained that she wasn't with him, didn't know where he was, what he was doing.
He did have some people that night. remember being that night. That night, yes.
She placed Ray in her brother's vehicle.
So the vehicle was on the boulevard, the exact time, pretty much, everything was on. Your recollection is that was in Ray, your vehicle, that was your vehicle. But my vehicle.
That puts Ray in the same place at the same time from possibly the same location that Brittanee disappeared from. That was huge. Law enforcement had never gotten there before.
At the end of the day, we're looking for the body, right? So that is the goal, that is a golden ticket. I'm sure it is. Right? What we're trying to do is find out what exactly happened, right? That we picked you to talk to because we thought you would have information on it, right? There is evidence that indicates that you could have been in that vehicle, right? Your phone could have been there. You know what? I thought we still have that. Still have that phone.
That's hugely important. There could be evidence of that cell phone. It could be photographic, call detail records, text message content, geolocation data that could prove or disprove her statements. That's a big win.
Just before the interview concludes, Angel tells the FBI she does not know what happened to Brittanee Drexel.
Anybody who has that information would be holding a very, very valuable part. I don't know where Brittanee is. I don't. I don't. We want to work with this, but we want to try to get there.
When we ended the interview, Angel appeared cooperative.
I'll make you tomorrow.
We thought it went well. Our hopes were dashed pretty quickly of that the next day when she didn't respond to any of my calls or texts. We let a full day go by. We're back to square one. We all come together. I want that phone. I'm getting a search warrant to get in your house and get that phone. We execute the search warrant, huge operation. You couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting a cop out there that day. Everybody wanted to be part of this.
Senior investigator Hank Harrison is leading one team, one route, while Special Agent Michael Connolly and Special Agent James Kavanaugh are leading the second team, a different route.
They actually encounter Ray and Angel in a church parking lot next to a Dollar General. Ray comes right up and starts talking to Special Agent Connolly. Mike told him that we got some stuff we think it's important that you hear.
And Ray says, I got a big surprise for you guys.
We got a call that he wanted to speak with us.
While investigators are executing a search warrant at the house where Ray Moody lives with his longtime girlfriend Angel Voss, Moody arrives back on the scene.
I give Ray a copy of the search warrant. He can put two and two together and start to realize that we've got evidence, and ultimately we would go after whatever and whomever we had to get justice for Brittanee Drexel.
Moody asks his attorney to meet with the FBI.
We presented the information about the vehicles, the information about the phones.
And we said, this is what we think happened.
The investigators painted Moody into a corner.
We got a call and that he wanted to speak to us.
Moody meets with the FBI and local authorities at his attorney's office.
You do have the right to remain silent. Okay? Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law.
The only person who ever told this story to you is Mama Weir. Angel never even knew the real story.
After 13 long, agonizing years, it's over in an instant. Ray Moody confesses to killing Brittanee Drexel.
I was going down Ocean Boulevard, going along very slow driving, and I saw the Drexel worker walking along the sidewalk.
Did she ask for a ride, or did you ask her for a ride? Did you ask her if you wanted a ride? You remember?
I asked her if she liked park with us.
Okay.
She said, sure.
Angel was with you when you picked up Brittanee, is that correct? She got you to get in the car?
She was sitting in the passenger seat. So we started driving, just driving around, smoking and talking. Went right into Georgetown. Went right to a spot where we used to camp out down by the river. And I was by myself with her. Because Angel left for a while. So seriously, just things got out of hand. Panicked, she panicked, and I strangled her.
Moody's statements are that the murder and the strangulation and the rape all occurred at the landing. that point, it's just a confession. But it doesn't get you to a point where you can say definitively it's all correct and he's the guy.
But Moody claims full responsibility for the crime.
I did this, that Angel had been a victim of mine for a long time.
The ultimate test for us was going to be, could he provide information that would ultimately lead to the remains of Brittanee Drexel?
Raymond Moody takes them up past the Sunset Lodge, about 3 miles into a wooded area to the site where he says that he buried her body.
He stood on the ground and said, it's right here.
Investigators immediately arrest Raymond Moody for obstruction of justice so they can hold him in jail until they can excavate the site.
And then there's the matter of the difficult phone call to Dawn Drexel.
And I go, you've got to be kidding me. And I said, they looked at him in 2012. And I'm like, oh my God.
Dawn had called me and she just said, you're never gonna believe who it is. And I said, who? And she said, Raymond Moody.
Brittanee was killed at that boat landing. You know, he took her down there, same night she went missing. He raped her. She fought hard.
Ernie Merchant can only think back in horror to the time that Raymond Moody described the scratches on his face as being the result of a wild weekend.
If those claw marks on his face were made by her daughter, she fought for her life.
We lodged Ray overnight in jail. We brought him out the next day, and with his attorneys present, we conducted a far more in-depth and more formal interview.
So I wish Ray back in Georgetown, and the whole time we're having jokes and all that kind of stuff.
Moody tells investigators that sometime after they got to the Pullyard Landing, Angel left for a period of time, and that's when Moody, now alone, says he murdered Brittanee.
Did you have any inclination at that point when Angel left and what was going to happen next? There's something just like snapping.
Moody says he hid Brittanee's body about 150 feet away in a blanket in a grove of trees. Moody says when Angel returned, he told her Brittanee's friends had come and picked her up.
She didn't question about it.
He says he retrieved Brittanee's body hours later while Angel was sleeping and buried it at the site he'd taken investigators to. Several days after Moody's confession, Angel herself came in for what's called a proffer interview. In effect, she promises to tell the truth, and in return, they promise to take her cooperation into account in determining whether or not to prosecute her for any involvement she might have had in the events of that night. Despite having lied, Angel finally admits she was with Ray when they picked up Brittanee Drexel on the strip. But she says she left Moody and Brittanee alone at the Pullyard Landing.
According to prosecutors, phone records show that there was a time later in the evening at the Pullyard Landing where she and Ray were not together.
She got into the vehicle. She had her phone and everything with her. Never made me suspicious for a little bit until things came on TV. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on? He said, I told you, was she there? And my answer I got every time I said anything about it. He never said one word about the night or anything after that to me.
Meanwhile, investigators finally start to dig where Moody said he buried Brittanee.
All day we dug into the night. We're all feeling pretty dejected that we didn't find anything.
Those days of digging, and maybe did we miss something?
I was starting to lose hope. It's been 13 years since Brittanee Drexel suddenly went missing. Authorities now have a confession from registered sex offender Raymond Moody that they will only believe it when they've located Brittanee's body.
I talked to them on Monday, and they had started digging up this area where they believe Brittanee was put. And in the first few days, they didn't find her. Well, Wednesday, I got into my car and I turned my radio on. And this song came on, Rescued by Lauren Daigle.
Never been a moment you were forgotten.
It's a beautiful song. And I knew they were searching for Brittanee. And I told them, listen to this song while you're searching for her.
She called me and said it gave her hope. We were getting close because of the context of that song. Actually, I played it and listened to it while we were there.
Late on the third day of digging, the man running the backhoe at the dig site alerted the team that he thought they were close.
All of a sudden, he says, "This is it."
He could tell dirt that had been disturbed before versus dirt that had not. We uncovered a bone. And at that point, we stopped everything. And we took a step back and we called the evidence response team who came out and began the process of extracting her remains.
They set up lights and the FBI dug all night.
We go from inch by inch to grain by grain.
It was an entire team effort that night. Everyone felt a sense of ownership, a sense of responsibility.
Just the wave of emotions that overcomes you. We just found Brittanee Drexel.
That following day, they had told me that they had found human remains that they believed to be Brittanee's.
The discovery of human remains in a rural area of South Carolina.
Drexel's body was identified through dental records and DNA testing.
My mom had called me. They found Brittanee's remains and her nose ring was still there. A piece of her content was still there. I told her I wanted to keep those. And Dawn called me and told me, and immediately, like, it didn't feel like it had been 13 years. It felt like it still feels so raw.
Something that I'd waited 13 years to hear. 13 years to be able to lay my best friend to rest.
I didn't want Brittanee buried. I told her she's been in the ground too long. I said I would like to have her cremated so that the people that loved her could have a piece of her. I like this.
My mom was destined to find my sister from day one, but we're just waiting for justice for her now.
After 13 years of waiting, Brittanee Drexel's family finally getting some answers.
Authorities announcing an arrest after more than a decade of searching.
The Georgetown County Sheriff's Office charges against Mr. Raymond Moody are murder, kidnapping, criminal sexual conduct in the first degree.
Angel Voss is not charged in connection with Brittanee's disappearance.
Today marks the beginning of a new chapter. The search for Brittanee is now a pursuit of Brittanee's justice.
That pursuit of justice will soon bring Brittanee's family face to face with the man who confessed to her murder.
You guys are all mentally prepared to see this guy? Just remember that today's about Brittanee, not him.
Once he walked into that courtroom, it just made me so angry.
I was imagining 1,000 ways to break his neck.
Today is the most anticipated day in this 13-year saga. Raymond Moody is expected to plead guilty to all counts surrounding the murder of Brittanee Drexel.
The family of Brittanee Drexel
coming face to face with the man responsible for her murder.
You got my speeches all done? Or printed out?
She read it last night, and our judge's vote was take out the Mr. Moody, because it just seems too respectful.
I refer to defendants all the time by,
Mister.
it's almost like a backwards slap. The most important thing is that obviously this is coming from the heart.
I think the FBI just got here.
Good morning.
Good, how are you?
How are you?
I'm ready.
If the FBI agents that I have been working with since after 2016, if they would have never gotten involved, we would not be where we are today.
You guys are all mentally prepared to see this guy? Just so you know, I mean, you're gonna be looking him in the face here, you know? And all I can tell you is this, I've done this too many times. Keep your cool. Today's about Brittanee, not him.
Now, 5 months after Moody confessed to killing Brittanee Drexel, it's finally Judgment Day.
On the day of Moody's hearing, we're all there, and it's a team win for everybody. We do the best we can in what a quote-unquote civilized society allows us to do. We hope that's enough for the family.
Hi there, how are you?
Good to see you. How's everything? You're good, all things considered. Hey, good. How are you?
We had an obligation to Brittanee, and we had an obligation to Dawn and her entire family.
It feels good to see the hours that are poured in come to a somewhat of a resolution point for the family.
Amen. Thanks, Gil.
Justice for Brittanee is us all being able to look him in the face in the courtrooms and telling him that he's taken one of the most special people to all of us, and in such a monstrous way.
Once he walked into that courtroom, I was so angry.
When I saw him sitting there, I had a lot of rage, just trying to keep calm, not be one of those people to lunge. I was imagining 1,000 ways to break his neck.
The matter before you here today is the state of South Carolina versus Raymond Douglas Moody.
The state dropped the obstruction of justice charge, and the hearing was focused on Moody's plea on the charges of kidnapping, murder, and criminal sexual conduct in the first degree.
It's the state's understanding that Mr. Moody wishes to plead guilty.
Mr. Moody, you want to plead guilty?
Yes, sir. In your honor, Brittany's mother would like to address the court.
Okay. Raymond Moody finally comes face to face with all the pain he has caused, and he'll have to listen to every word.
Today we know the truth, and today, Mr. Moody, you face the consequences for that. Brittanee is present. I wear her picture and her ashes around my neck. That's all I have left. That's all we have left after what you did to her.
He wouldn't even look at me. And I was shaking. I was that mad.
Today, no one wins. Forgiveness is not part of this narrative today. I ask you, Judge Cothran, to sentence Raymond Moody to the fullest extent of the law. Not a day less, to make sure his last breath is taken in the cage where he belongs, where he will never harm another beautiful girl like Brittanee again.
May it please the court, Your Honor. I believe Mr. Moody would like to briefly address the court.
Okay.
I did 20 years and 8 months, and I thought that was enough, but it wasn't. I was amongst them, and I was amongst them. And I took Brittanee Drexel's life. I don't have the words to express how horrible I feel. And I've felt ever since that day very, very sorry.
I thought it's a show for him. That's it.
I don't buy it. I'm sorry. That's like asking the lion if he's sorry about attacking the gazelle. He's a predator. Remorse is not something that someone like Ray Moody feels.
And it's my job to sentence you appropriately. For the crime of criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, you're committed to the State Department Correction for a term of 30 years. Kidnapping, you're committed to a term of 30 years. On the crime of murder, sentence of the court is you committed to the State Department Correction for the term of your natural life.
He is going to serve life imprisonment without possibility of parole. He will never be out on the street again.
He did what he did, and now he's paying the price, and I'm glad he's locked up where he belongs.
And now that the Drexel family has their justice, Timothy Taylor's family is demanding the same thing.
Now remember, Taylor had been living under a shadow of suspicion for nearly 6 years before Moody confessed to the crime.
FBI got wind from a jailhouse informant that Taylor was allegedly involved in Brittanee Drexel's disappearance.
Timothy's name and face will forever be linked to Brittanee Drexel because of a lie. We are still waiting on authorities at all levels to clear the record. Saying the words Timothy Taylor is innocent does. My son deserves that.
I feel bad for Deshaun. I feel bad for the family.
So sorry for everything Deshaun endured. Nobody wins, as Dawn says, but we're so glad that justice was served today.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
We have been fortunate to get many answers. Some of the answers have raised more questions.
I don't believe anything he has to say.
You definitely want your set for 6. Be careful.
The day after Moody's sentencing, the FBI brings the family to the Pole Yard Landing, where Moody killed Brittanee.
Time was already, so right here. This is generally the area that Moody pointed out. And this is where he said he had actually raped and killed Brittanee, right here.
Despite finally finding Brittanee after all these years and Ray Moody behind bars, her family still wrestles with some questions.
Whatever motivated Brittanee to get into that car, she was immediately separated from her phone.
In reference to Moody, I don't believe anything he has to say.
We have been fortunate to get many answers to the questions that have been asked. But some of the answers have raised more questions.
We have to live with this for the rest of our lives. We have to learn how to live with it.
I wanted to do something beautiful for her because she was a beautiful person inside and out.
Brittanee would want to be remembered as the person she was before she went missing. She'd want to be remembered as that happy-go-lucky girl who brightened up her room when she walked in.
I never thought this day would come, but here we are, 13 long years later. When the FBI called me, I was in tears. I said, thank you so much for finding my daughter. I would like to honor the FBI agents with this pendant. It is a picture of Brittanee, and on the back, it says, thank you for finding me.
There is nobody more singularly responsible for the resolution of this case than Dawn Drexel.
She went from being desperate to determined.
she's my kid. I mean, she was my heart when we brought her home. So now she can rest in peace.
Brittanee Drexel's mother, Dawn, has now filed a civil suit against her daughter's killer, Raymond Moody.
She says it's become her life's mission to help people on missing persons cases and to combat human trafficking. That's our report for tonight. Thanks so much for watching.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
ladies and gentlemen, that is 13 years. But today we stand for you 16 years. And so in the next few witnesses, we're going to fill in those gaps of what has happened over the course of the last few years and tell you a little bit more about what Dawn has gone through. And I hope you can appreciate that. If we brought you that via live testimony, we would have been here a very long time. So I hope that you find that sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moody, before the plaintiff calls his first witness, you have the opportunity to give an opening statement on your own. You may give that opening statement from your chair if you'd like, or you may waive opening statements.
At this point, I'd like to wait for giving a statement. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is 3:40 right now. We're going to take a brief recess. Been at it now for almost 2 hours, so I think an hour and 40 minutes. So now seems like a good time to take a quick break before we hear from witness testimony. Again, I just want to remind you to not discuss anything that you just heard in the opening statements or video that was played as a demonstration by the plaintiff. There'll be a time to discuss that when you deliver. Thank you. All right, we'll be at ease for about 10 minutes, and then, counsel, will you be prepared to call your first witness at that point?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We're at ease.
He wasn't streaming on the, they just started rolling on let me at least get them back to the, you see how I can even find it fast enough.
tomorrow morning,
Okay,
so we don't have to rush her this afternoon.
okay. I will still move as quickly as I can, but it's good to know.
Are we prepared to proceed?
We are.
Let's go ahead and. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Council, you can call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Plaintiff calls Mike Conley.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please be seated and state and spell your name for the record.
Michael Connolly, Connelly.
And Mr. Conley, is it all right if I call you Mike?
Yes, sir.
Would you tell the jury a little bit about yourself as far as your background in law enforcement?
Yeah, I'm an FBI agent. I've been one for about approximately 25 and a half years, assigned in Detroit, Myrtle Beach, and an assignment overseas. I primarily work violent crime, gangs, and a little bit of terrorism.
When did you get involved in this case?
Late in 2016, late summer, early fall 2016 is when I first got involved in this case.
And how did you get involved?
Ms. Drexel, Ms. Connolly, actually now, came to our office. I was supervisor of the Myrtle Beach office. And she asked if we would provide some assistance in this investigation and work with the local police a little bit more than we had been in the past. And we did.
And at that point, you and your team became involved in the investigation that at that point had not been solved, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You obviously had the opportunity to watch what happened with respect to your investigation in the 2020 episode that we all watched as part of the opening. And does that fairly and accurately represent basically what you and your team did from 2016 on?
Fairly accurate. Things have changed since then. The investigation's developed, but it's fairly accurate.
Okay. And that being said, there's a few gaps in there, right?
Yep.
And there's been obviously 3 years since that 13-year mark, which ended that video to get us to where we are, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Will you fill in a few of those gaps for the jury?
So we spoke with Mr. Moody in April 4th and actually May 4th and May 5th of 2022. And then we spoke with Angel Boss in May 11th of 2022. And we basically took those statements, and what our responsibility was to try to corroborate that. Not accept them as true, but try to corroborate those with empirical evidence, whether that be testimony, other testimony, phone records, video. And that process took over 2 years in order to successfully get to the point where we felt like we understood what parts of that story was true and which parts of that story were false. And in 2024, when we felt like we had a large part of the truth, Ms. Voss was indicted
for her role in the abduction, rape, and murder of Brittanee Drexel.
And was in the 2020 episode, Mr. Moody indicated that Brittanee Drexel willingly got in the vehicle in order to party with them. Did your investigation prove that that was true or false?
It proved that she willingly did get into the vehicle, but that it was under a ruse. That she was offered a ride to her hotel, and that's the reason she got in the car, ostensibly. That's what she believed the reason was for getting in the car. But that was not the reason that they lured her into the car.
And at that point that she was picked up, about how far was the distance between there and her hotel where she was going to pack and sleep for the night?
So the Blue Water is approximately 1.5 miles from the Bar Harbor. She, depending on the phone, which part of the phone records that you can actually be fairly certain about, she didn't make it very far past outside of the Blue Water before she was abducted. And when I say not very far, we're talking like less than 0.2 of a mile before she was inside the vehicle and moving at vehicle speed.
And with respect to Mr. Moody on the episode, it indicated that Ms. Voss was in the passenger seat. Is that accurate?
That's not accurate based upon the information we have now. She's actually in the back of the vehicle. And Ms. Voss was, at one point in time, she was in the passenger seat, and then they switched drivers.
And so is it your understanding that Ms. Voss was the one that offered Brittanee a ride in the vehicle?
That's correct. And that's primarily based upon what was referred to in that video is a 2014 hotel recording where Ms. Voss makes admissions that she was the person that Brittanee got in the vehicle with. And that proved to be true with our later investigation too as well.
And so throughout the course of this investigation, what was your interaction like with Dawn as these new facts came to light and new information came to light? What were your interactions like with her?
I mean, I was constantly in contact with Dawn, but I think the frustration that Dawn had was that I couldn't tell her really what was happening in the case. Oftentimes I refer to it as a person A or person B. We're trying to work different angles and stuff like that, but generally you like to keep in contact with the victim family just to reassure them that the investigation is being worked very seriously without divulging any information about the investigation. So very regular contact, non-substantive as far as evidence until we solve the case.
And how many, just round number, investigations have you been part of in your career? Hundreds, dozens?
These types of cases or any case?
Any type of case?
Hundreds.
And as far as the victims that you have interacted with, on a scale of no involvement to maximum involvement, where would you put Dawn on that scale?
Yeah, over a course of, I've known Dawn for approximately 9 years now, very high on that scale. Her contact for 9 years is constant, like weekly at times, daily at times, through all the highs and lows of the investigation, yeah.
And safe to say that without Dawn walking into the FBI office herself in 2016 and meeting with you, this case probably never gets solved.
It's hard to say. I mean, I can't say anything other than comment on what her impact was on us. And she held us constantly accountable just by calling and asking, not demanding, but just calling and asking. And we just tried to reassure that we were working hard to find out the truth.
Where were you when you got word that they had found Brittanee?
So I was with Mr. Moody when he pointed out where she was at. And then once they started to dig, I had to fly back overseas. So I was actually overseas when they actually found her.
What went through your mind at that point?
I mean, the goal of the case all along was like kind of to get justice for Brittanee and also to provide whatever little bit of closure we could for the family by bringing Brittanee back home. So it was a relief, I guess would be the best way to say it, is that the whole team working hard was able to provide that for Dawn and her family.
And with respect to after, obviously, Mr. Moody was sentenced, there's been 3 years in that time. Tell the jury a little bit about what you've observed as far as what Dawn has done, you know, in that period of time and how the investigation has progressed. You indicated that, you know, since we've been involved, Angel Voss was indicted, for example. What came of that and where are we now?
So like I said, after you get anybody's statement, the most important thing you need to do is try to corroborate it. You don't accept anything as true unless you can corroborate it. And there's some certain parts of this story that unfortunately can probably never be corroborated with any sort of empirical evidence. But it was just a 2.5-year period where we had to go back into cell phone records. We had to go back to the video. We had to do additional interviews. We had to try to establish A, whether the story was true, and B, whether any other individuals were involved and to what degree that they were involved. So it sounds like it's a pretty simple task, but it took all of us the full 2.5 years to be able to get to the point where we could bring the case to a grand jury, indict the case, and then ultimately in September of this year when she pled guilty to those charges too as well.
And throughout the course of that entire process, was Dawn involved?
Almost every day, definitely every week, but she was constantly calling. And again, not at Badger. She wasn't demanding anything. She just would inquire. And we would just reassure that it's very important to us to find out what the truth was. And then tell her, well, maybe at the end of that was the truth. I mean, I think she was prepared for whatever answer we would give as long as she felt that we sufficiently investigated it to determine if it was truthful or not.
And at the end of that piece of the case, Ms. Voss was sentenced, right?
She was sentenced on February 13th, just last week.
Yeah. And Dawn was there for that.
She certainly was.
Is there anything with respect to Dawn's involvement in the case that you have found unusual, you know, or you know, just her, I think you spoke a little bit about it on the 2020 episode, but it's kind of, you know, just a driver of justice, for lack of a better word. And you know, I'll tell you, my interaction is the same. She texts and calls and wants to know what's going on, and it's a good thing.
Exactly. Her persistence is incredible. She's driven to get justice for her daughter. But again, I think the important part of it is it's never in a demanding way. It's more just asking, and then, you know, and we all felt that the whole team felt it was incumbent upon us to do a thorough investigation to find out what the truth was. And she just never gave up. She, like I said in the video, she's singularly responsible, I believe, for ensuring that this case received the diligence that it did by the whole team.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Moody, you may question Mr. Connolly if you have any questions for him.
No, sir, I don't have any questions.
May the witness be excused, Your Honor.
He may. Mr. Willie, you can call your next witness.
All right, we call Kim Kite.
Do you solemnly swear or that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you? Please have a seat and then state and spell your name for the record.
Kimberly, last name is Kite, K-I-T-E.
Ms. Kite, will you tell the jury just a little bit of your background, who you are, where you live, how you spend your time, so they can understand how you fit into this picture?
Former law enforcement. I got out in 2009. I live in Somerville, so in this state. But, I created a Facebook page about a year after getting out of law enforcement for the missing. And then there was and Dawn had created a foundation for these little angels. And so there was a controversy with a flyer out of Mexico that both pages had posted. And so a lady that was with her, you know, reached out to me, and when she found out where I lived, Dawn reached out to me at that time, and asked me if I would look from the beginning of Brittany's case to where they were at the time, and I told her I would, and over the years, I'd say she's more like a sister at this point to me and a best friend, but she is just, her, through all of it, you wouldn't think someone would still be so loving, trusting, compassionate, caring, and she is. But she, as you saw on the 2020 video, the roller coaster over the years, and it's hard to even put into words her emotions with every single roller coaster. She heard horrific stories that weren't truths, and images, once you hear, those images are burned in a mother's mind. She's been amazing. Sometimes I've wondered how she's kept going. She maintained her family, but she had to spend a lot of time away from her other children to spend so much time in Myrtle Beach to find Brittanee. And she was hopeless at times. I can remember a long period of time where it was like she gave up, not fighting and not pushing, but gave up the hope of ever finding Brittanee or ever having answers. And somehow she pushed through that. Over the years, I've watched her develop a social anxiety as far as going out in public with very crowded places. She doesn't do well with that. It has affected her work ability. And she fought hard a long time over the years to hold on and balance everything. I think everything just finally caught up to her.
Kim, when you and Dawn got working together on this case, I mean, you really dove into it. Is that fair to say?
I did.
In
Wrong
fact,
path, but I did.
right. In fact, when I got involved in the case, you were one of the first people I met with. You remember that? Yes. And one of the things that came out of that was Dawn's ongoing commitment to not only finding Brittanee, but to other families that have gone through this. And you've seen some of that.
She's talked a lot over the years of wanting to help other families, and she did create Brittanee's Little Angels. It's hard. It got to a place for her. It was hard to continue that at the time for her because her daughter was her focus, and that's how it should have been. She never gave up that right time's going to come, that she's going to be able to help other families. And she's been with me now for 10 days because she lives in Florida. So her time came up this weekend. We had a little 12-year-old in Beaufort missing, and she was able to go with me. And it was to have a mom that has experienced what that mom is experiencing at the time. You can't really put words to that. And that mother was so grateful for her, but it also made Dawn feel good. It fulfilled her purpose too, I think.
And through all of that, you've seen Dawn push this case in every dimension.
Oh,
forward.
absolutely. I've been involved with numerous families over the last 14 years, and families fight hard. I'm not minimizing anybody, but I've never seen anybody fight as hard as she has without ever giving up. No matter where she was mentally, she lost her dad, she lost both of her brothers. All of this while Brittanee was still missing and it was the unknown. And she just, I don't know, she's amazing.
Thank you, Kim. Have any further questions?
Mr. Moody, any questions of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Kuyper, step down. Counselor, you can call your next witness.
Call Ms. Conley.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you. Please be seated and then state and spell your full name.
My name is Dawn Conley, Conley.
Dawn, tell the jury where you live now.
I actually live in Florida now.
And why did you move to Florida?
Florida is very peaceful for me. There was a lot going on in New York because Brittanee had took national status, and my kids were starting to feel uncomfortable and things like that. And I had lost one of my brothers too, and my parents ended up moving to Florida. So I wanted a new start. I wanted to go somewhere where nobody knew me.
And throughout the course of Brittanee's life, though, you lived in New York, correct?
Yes, I lived in Rochester, New York.
Tell the jury a little bit about Brittanee as a kid, growing up.
Brittanee, as you could see in the video, she was just full of life. She was a happy little girl. Brittanee was born blind in her one eye. She couldn't see. So she had a disability, and she had gone through multiple surgeries on her eye. But she started playing soccer when she was 5, and she was, I think, the quickest person on her team. She was a great soccer player. She was our soccer star. She was playing travel ball. I mean, she loved hanging out with family and my parents, her grandparents, going shopping and doing things like normal teenagers do.
And Brittanee was the eldest of your children, correct?
Brittanee was my eldest daughter. She was my firstborn. And then 6 years, all my kids are 6 years apart. So 6 years, Brittanee was 6 years old when she became a big sister to Marissa. And then 6 years after Marissa was born, I had Camden.
And describe, the interaction that you had as a family with Brittanee and what she meant to you and your family. That's part of what the jury has to consider.
We were a very close-knit family. Brittanee always thought family was very, very important. She always took care of her brothers and sisters, and even her friends. She had a ton of friends. She was very close with my parents, and they did a lot with her. We'd all go to her soccer games. The kids always wanted to be with mom, and I took them everywhere with me. We had a great relationship. I have a great relationship with all my kids. But when Brittanee went missing, her case consumed me. And I feel bad because my other kids, it hurt them. And, I can't go back and change what happened, but I can make it better from here on out. I mean, my children really suffered through all of this. They thought they lost their mom, they lost their sister. So it was very difficult for them.
And at the time that Brittanee was what we now know to be kidnapped, Marissa was 11.
Marissa was 11 and Camden was 5.
What do you remember about explaining to them what had happened in Myrtle Beach?
Are you talking about after we knew it happened?
No, once you got back from the first trip down and you didn't bring Brittanee back.
When I first came here, I was in Myrtle Beach for 2 months looking for Brittanee. We were passing out flyers. We would talk to anybody that would talk to us. I went to multiple searches around the Myrtle Beach area and in Georgetown. And I had went home, I think once in between that time to see my other 2 children. And then I came back and I was here for a total of 2 months. And when I got home, I didn't have Brittanee. We just knew that she was still missing at that point.
And at that point in time, when you went back home, did you stay in Rochester? Did you stay in Rochester, or did you eventually come back to Myrtle Beach?
I did. I went home for probably about, maybe 3 days, 4 days, and then I came right back to Myrtle Beach.
And about, how long did that, process go on, where you'd be home a few days and then back to Myrtle Beach, and home a few days and back to Myrtle Beach?
I would go to Myrtle Beach for a lot of her searches. There was multiple searches done for her in the Georgetown area. So anytime that, they would have a search or I needed to have a meeting with law enforcement, I would travel down to South Carolina. And then I think it was 2011 or 12, it was 2011, I think. I had moved to South Carolina to Myrtle Beach to be closer to Brittanee. And I felt like if I was here, that I would be able to push her case along.
And when you came down to South Carolina to live, to do that, is that what you did? Did you work with law enforcement to push your case along?
I did. I was working with law enforcement. There wasn't a whole lot going on at that time.
And during that period of time, were you also doing things on your own, as far as flyering and billboards and things like that?
Yes, I was working with other individuals, getting billboards put up for Brittanee. And anytime I had a chance to get Brittanee's face on the media, I did, because we didn't know what happened. And anytime that I could, at least if I kept her face and name out there, maybe somebody would see her.
And when did you move from Myrtle Beach?
I moved from Myrtle Beach in 2013. I went back to Rochester, New York, and I was with my children. And Marissa was in her 20s when I had ended up leaving there in Camden. Just had graduated high school when I ended up moving to Florida. But I stayed there for quite some time.
And during that period of time, what were your interactions just in the public like? I mean, were you able to go on as kind of a normal person back in Rochester?
No, not really. Like I said, her case consumed me. I would do anything possible that I could do for her, whether it be talking to, law enforcement, talking to other people to help me, because it takes an army to find a missing person. And I would reach out to a lot of people, a lot of different organizations and things like that, just to try to have them help me find Brittanee.
Where were you the first time that you got the call and they told you they thought the case was solved? Or they thought they had a good lead on solving the case?
Are you speaking about 2016? I was in Rochester. I was called, I think, by the FBI, and they wanted me to come down for a press conference that they were having. They had some information that they believed, was truthful. And I got sat down in a room, in a conference room, and they told me that my daughter was kidnapped, raped, shot, and thrown in the alligator pit. And I couldn't really talk at that point. I just broke down. I didn't want to imagine that happening to her. So that was very hard for me. And, during all this time, it was just, we had so much hope that Brittanee was still out there. And then I got told that in 2016, which did, stuff. So, and it's very hard for me to focus. I have been out of work, I think, quite a few times since Brittanee's been missing. And this past recent time in March of 2024, I believe, and also in 2022, I was out of work also, but I had a lot of things going on. My younger brother passed away in 2022. Then they found Brittanee's remains, and then my father passed in September, right before my 50th birthday.
And the PTSD and the anxiety and agoraphobia, they have tied that back to what you've been going through with the loss of your daughter.
That is correct.
With respect to Mr. Moody, and when you learned that he did what he did to your daughter, where were you?
I was at home on my back porch.
And how do you remember that conversation going?
When the FBI had called me, when they had told me who it was, I said, "Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me." And I said they were looking at him in 2011, 2012. And I just broke down in tears.
Did you believe it?
I did.
And at that point in time and since, tell the jury a little bit about what has happened. I mean, you've been to South Carolina, I don't know how many times at this point.
I've been in South Carolina from 2009 all the way up to now it is 2025. I've gone back and forth, trying to do anything possible that I could do for Brittanee.
And why, tell the jury why the civil case is important to you. That this part of justice is important for you and for your daughter.
I wanted to set a precedence that people that commit these crimes and do what Mr. Moody did to my daughter, they need everything taken away from them because they took the most precious thing that they could have taken away from me, and that was Brittanee.
And that's what you're here fighting for?
That is correct. It's about the principle.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Brady, any questions for Ms. Collins?
No, Your Honor.
Council, you can call your next witness.
Plaintiff restaurant.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a few matters to take up. At this time, I'm going to ask that you retire to your jury room. The matters that we have to take up are matters to be taken up outside of your presence. They're legal matters, but if you'll return to your jury room, we will be here shortly. Okay, Mr. Moody, the plaintiff has rested in this case, meaning they have put forward all the evidence they intend to. Mr. Moody, that then goes to you. Do you have any evidence that you intend to put forward for this jury?
No, Your Honor, I don't.
Okay. What I would like to do, it's 4:32. Do you have any proposed charges that y'all have provided or anything like that? Okay.
No.
I have, with this, there is I have a charge for intentional infliction of emotional distress, but it's been admitted. So my assumption is that the charge would be on damages. You requested a bifurcation. I can limit that damages charge to not include punitive damage, but only compensatory and actual damages. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then just Your Honor's standard charge of what outrage or intentional infliction is, and that it's been admitted. I think is, and our burden of proof, and the basics.
Sure.
Probably.
One thing that is a little different with this, it's my understanding when cases are not contested and liability has been established or admitted, that you will have a chance to charge, but there will not be a reply since it is admitted. So what we will do, Mr. Moody, is we'll bring the jury back out. I'll allow you to state on the record that you don't intend to put up a defense or any testimony. I'm going to send the jury home tonight, and in the morning we will do closing arguments, and I will charge the law of this case, and the jury will begin deliberations at that time. Is there anything else for the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else from you, Mr. Moody?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. We can then bring the jury back. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As you heard, the plaintiff is rested in this case. Mr. Moody, do you intend to put up any evidence for defense?
No, Your Honor, I don't. I'm completely guilty as charged. I have no defense for my behavior.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Ladies and gentlemen, given the time, it's 4:35. We still have closing arguments and also being charged with the law. That being said, I don't want to keep you late tonight. I have a feeling that if we were to close and charge you with the law, that your deliberation may continue into the late hours. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to excuse you. It's 4:35, and I'm going to have you come back in tomorrow morning at 9:30. Tomorrow morning, we'll hear closing arguments. I'm charging the law, and at that point, you'll be able to begin deliberating amongst yourselves on this case. But Again, I ask you, as I previously stated, please do not do any of your research. The evidence that you have heard has come from the witness stand. That is the evidence that you're to consider. But ladies and gentlemen, have a good night, and we'll see you at 9:30 in the morning. All right. Anything else before we break tonight? Anything, Mr. Moody? All right. What I would like, is there any audio, video things that you need in the morning for closings?
Not other than what I've got here, I'll set up again.
Just wanted to make sure that you, just make sure you're here in time to get that all set up.
Yeah, we will.
Perfect. All right, we're to ease then until tomorrow morning at 9:30. Council, what I would like to do actually, we'll try to start at 9:15.
Okay.
That way we can have a charge conference. I can discuss the law that I intend to charge. If you have any objections or Mr. Moody has any objections, we can discuss it at that point.
And the other thing that I would just offer is if you
Every day on the water counts. Don't miss the biscuit. Captain Experiences makes it stupid easy to book damn good guides across the U.S. Book now at captainexperiences.com.
Well, the weekend has come and gone, and here we are, a brand new work and school week. And from this view, everything looks quiet. And yeah, it is going to be pretty quiet as we head through the next several days. What you can't see is all the clouds overhead, and we're going to see plenty of those as we head throughout the day today. 44 is where we're at right now. So why all the clouds? Well, a storm system passes to the south. That's where the rain is going to stay, but we're going to have plenty of clouds in our direction. And then as that storm system passes well to our south but moves offshore, we'll have some milder temperatures midweek with more sunshine. And then we've got a late week cold front, and that's going to be our next chance for rain. So today we'll top out around 64, so just a few degrees shy of the average, which is 66. And then look at this, much warmer, 73 Tuesday, Wednesday, lots of sunshine, 74 Thursday. So I think we'll maybe warm up a degree ahead of a cold front. And then behind that front, we're going to cool down a little bit, still close to average, but again, maybe a couple degrees below where we should be. All right, we're already looking ahead to the weekend. I know it's only Monday morning, but we've got the Front Beach Fest, try to say that 3 times fast, going on Saturday out at IOP from 12 to 4, and a lot of sunshine for that event. Temperatures pretty consistently in the lower to middle 60s. Not bad for, at that point, we're going to be in late February. Right now, we've got some cooler temperatures up toward the north, 26 in Blacksburg, 34 in Raleigh. We're at 44. Same thing in Atlanta, 53 down into Jacksonville. And again, around Florida, that's where they're going to see the rain today. So we're sitting at 44. We've got the clouds, winds are calm. So you can see, again, the rain is going to stay to our south. So even through South Georgia, Southern Alabama, but especially through Florida. So that's where that low is going to track across. So that's where most of the rain will be. So for us, I mean, yes, maybe a stray shower, but I really just think we're going to be too dry to see anything other than the clouds. And the clouds will slowly start to make their way out as we head toward this afternoon. And then tonight, maybe a few passing clouds. Again, there's that storm system off the coast. That's where the rain will be Tuesday. We're going to see an awful lot of sunshine, and then high pressure builds in, and we're not tracking another storm system until late Thursday. Want to do some fishing? Best time, 6 a.m. to noon and 6 p.m. until midnight. So today, afternoon partial clearing, close to average temperature-wise, we'll hit a high of 64. And then tonight, some passing clouds, not too cool, a low of 43. And then look at that, 70s as we head toward the middle of the week. Rain chance coming with the cold front late Thursday into early Friday.
Right now on Good Morning Charleston, flames engulf a home on Sullivan's Island. The information we're working to learn about the weekend fire that could be seen from miles away. Plus, making the community more walkable. The details of construction project on Woodland Shores Road and when you can share your thoughts.
Raymond Moody, Brittanee Drexel's confessed killer, is back in a courtroom this morning, facing a lawsuit filed by his victim's mother. On the latest details at the live desk.
Good morning, Charleston. I'm Mel Orleans. We thank you so much for starting your Monday with us. Of course, at 6, Trooper Bob out on the roads tracking traffic. Hey, Bob, happy Monday. How's it going out there?
Hey, good morning, Mel. Happy Monday to you who's watching there. Here's a live look at 26 eastbound, just past Ashley Phosphate. Let's start a little farther back, right around College Park Road. I jumped on there, Interstate 26 East. A couple pockets of slowdown there. It's no rhyme or reason for it. I call it the accordion effect. It's just everyone slows down, everyone starts going. So there's a couple of those pockets in that 6-mile stretch between College Park and Ashley Phosphate, especially right before the construction zone. But as you can see, we're right at interstate speeds here, heading over towards Aviation. 526, little heavier volume on the eastbound side, headed over towards Mount Pleasant. They did wrap up that construction zone on 26 near Ridgeville. This was only on the westbound side. They were down to one lane. The left lane was closed for majority of the night, but we can mark that one off the books. Right now, I don't see any incidents or wrecks.
All right, let's check out drive time. So starting to see a little bit of volume building Moncks Corner to North Charleston on Highway 52, 28-minute commute, just 18 minutes, Mount Pleasant to West Ashley. And then if you're headed on 26 from Somerville to the 526 interchange, 13 minutes.
This News 4 Traffic Tracker Update was sponsored by Mr. Sparky, America's on-time electrician.
Make sure you grab the jacket before you head out the door this morning, but you're going to want to layer because we are going to start to warm things up a little bit as we head throughout the day. So right now we're looking at temperatures at 39 in Moncks Corner and Georgetown, but everybody else a little bit warmer in the 40s. We've got 41 in Walterboro and Somerville, 44 in Charleston. We've got plenty of clouds overhead and we've got showers to the south. That's where the rain is going to stay because that storm system passing well to our south throughout the day today. So as you're headed off to work, plenty of clouds, 42, 58 by lunchtime, still lots of cloud cover. And then I think late this afternoon, that's when we'll start to see some peaks of sunshine here and there, 63 by the time you're headed back home. So very close to average temperature wise as we head into this afternoon.
Happening today, Brittanee Drexel's killer will be in a Georgetown County courtroom for a civil trial over the murder. A transportation order filed in Georgetown County states that the South Carolina Department of Corrections will provide Raymond Moody transportation to the county's judicial center. The order also states that Moody is required to appear there for a civil trial over a lawsuit Drexel's mother filed back in January of 2023. Don Plecken is suing Moody for intentional infliction of emotional distress and outrage, demanding a jury trial in the case. Court records show the trial will start at 9:30 a.m. this morning. Drexel, who was originally from New York, vanished on April 25, 2009, while vacationing in Myrtle Beach. Moody confessed to law enforcement that he had kidnapped, raped, and killed Drexel and was sentenced to life in prison in October of 2022. Meanwhile, Moody's girlfriend, Angel Voss, was recently sentenced for lying to the FBI about the case. We'll have a crew in that courtroom and we'll bring you the latest information on air and online at abcnews4.com.
All right, Conley, thank you. Charleston County leaders working to make sure that Woodland Shores Road and Maybank Highway are safer with the help of a project. And tonight there's a community meeting where you can share your thoughts about the work that's being done. Lauren Lennon joining us live from that intersection that so many say is dangerous. Lauren, what can you tell us about this project and what did neighbors tell you ahead of tonight's meeting?